All right, and we are recording. This is so exciting. This is our inaugural Desmond's Army podcast. We're going to give this the good old college try. And for all of those of you who don't know, my name is Matt Karen. I'm a former journalist, reporter with Fox 61. And now I'm on board with the Desmond's Army family. And joining me is the indomitable Robin Zilla Cannamela, who's the president of Desmond's Army. Zilla, this is gonna be fun.
This is great, Matt. Thank you so much for setting this up and being on board with us and helping us out in these areas that we know nothing about.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, um, we're going to have a conversation today. We're going to talk about, of course, Desmond's Army and you and some of the initiatives that are, that you guys are involved with, and we'll just kind of see where this goes. And hopefully, people out there who are listening find some of this information valuable. So let's just jump right in. And Zilla, I think where I want to start is, for people who are listening to this today and they've never heard of Desmond's Army. Maybe they just landed on the website, checked it out. They just went on Facebook, but they don't really know what Desmond's Army is all about, who Desmond is, what the mission is all about.
Right.
Bring us up to speed. What are we all about?
Okay. I'll try to do it as concisely as possible. Desmond's Army is a group of volunteer um, animal advocates. And what we do is go to court on animal cruelty cases. And some of our people have been doing this long before, the Desmond case. There's always been animal cruelty cases, and some of our people, have been doing this a very, very long time. But Desmond was a dog involved in a domestic violence case, and which is appropriate for this month of October being
Right,
Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
right.
But Desmond was murdered by a man who actually went looking for Desmond after his pregnant girlfriend left him because he was abusive. So, and she could not take Des with her, so she brought him back to the shelter, and he was actually moved to a more quiet shelter where um, Alex Buller found him and brought him home and starved, beat, and ultimately murdered Desmond in retaliation for her leaving.
What year was
Um,
this?
this was in 2012.
Okay. And how did you find out about Desmond's case? I mean, what were you doing at the time?
It
When
was actually my cousin brought me into this. And she said, You have to come and do this, protesting on the steps. Um, and I met everybody doing it there. Desmond's shelter worker and one of our other co-founders, um, Christine Kiernan, may she rest in peace. She just
Yeah, she
recently
recently
passed
just
away.
recently passed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so,
So your
I
so
started
your
going to
cousin was
court.
really instrumental. Your cousin was the one who really got you
My cousin,
involved.
Geronimo.
I got to ask
We've
about
all
all these
taken on
names.
our dogs' names.
Okay. So maybe that is we talked about going off on these tangents. We'll get back to the main story in a minute. But people call you Zilla, right? Your real name is Robin, but why do they call you Zilla?
When I first got on Facebook, I didn't want to use my real name because I'm a survivor of domestic violence. Um, and so I was very apprehensive. It still kind of gives me the willies um, to use my real name. And so I said, I'll use Zilla. I had this big black Rottweiler lab dog, and she was a monster as a baby. She was just huge, And I was like, oh my God, this is Zilla Monstella. And then I called her, and my last name is Cannamela, so she was Zilla Monstella Cannamela.
A
That was
mouthful.
her stage name.
Yeah, but you know what though? It is honestly it is the perfect name when I think about you because Zilla, it's like this powerful, larger than life presence. And that's really the energy that I think you project. I mean, you are this larger than life presence in the animal advocacy world, and just with the personal struggles that you mentioned and how much you've been through in your own life, it really is the perfect name for you, I think.
Thank you. Thank you. I love carrying on her namesake. It,
Yeah.
it means a lot to me. Um,
Um, so getting back to the main story about Desmond. So you started protesting this story, and
right.
obviously it eventually became the name of the organization, but the organization wasn't an organization at the time. So how did it go from being this tragic story that you protested and that was in the news to now being the name of this nonprofit?
Well, the news actually dubbed us, the entire group there is Desmond's Army. That was the media that dubbed us that. And so, when the case became adjudicated, which was tragically, um, there was no justice at that point because Desmond's murderer, who admitted to murdering Desmond, was given accelerated rehabilitation, and which is a
As they
slap
so
on the
often
wrist.
are, too
Yeah,
often.
yeah. We had made headway afterwards, after Desmond's law was passed, but since COVID, everything's just gone backwards. But anyway, um, you know, after that was adjudicated and he received AR, we were aghast. I mean, we couldn't believe the judge gave that to him. He admitted to murdering him, and his murder was heinous. It was violent. And accelerated rehabilitation is meant for, number one, people who are not likely to reoffend. Number two, cases that are not violent.
Right,
And
right.
so, um,
Is this judge still out there? Do you know? Is
she is, and she's actually come around and she's been adjudicating. We've followed, we've been on cases that she's adjudicated, and um, she has really done a turnaround in animal
okay?
cruelty cases.
Well, and
You know,
part of that
it's
is probably due to your advocacy and then Desmond's law
right.
coming
Yeah,
around, right? So it,
yeah.
it all it all really can be attributed back to Desmond's army and Desmond's law. But all right, so you knew that this wasn't right. Accelerated rehabilitation, we see it all the time, right? Slap on the wrist.
Right.
Um, and you said, I can't just sit idly by in the sidelines. I got to do something here. And then Desmond's army was born. How was it born?
Um, well, you know, let me go back a little bit farther,
Sure.
because it was Christine made a call to then state representative Diana Urban,
Mm,
and we had an idea of, there's victims advocates. Why can't the animals have an advocate? And Diana's response was, "That's crazy. It might work." So it took 3 years of whittling away. They started it as, um, it was supposed to encompass all animals at the judge's discretion, and we couldn't get it through. Every year it got whittled down a little bit more, and now it's to just dogs and cats, which is, we're going to be working on that. Um, and we've been working on it, and hopefully this year we do have a sponsor in legislation for it. Anyway, so that was how that idea came about. And
So just to clarify, so did Desmond's law come before Desmond's army?
no,
No. Okay.
no, Desmond's Army,
Was first.
pre-existed Desmond's Law,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we were sort of the driving force to get that law implemented.
Got it.
And so then after that, we disbanded. Everybody was, fed up and disgusted and discouraged, and we disbanded. And then some cases came up. There was the case of Veronica Reyes, who hanged her two dogs in Bristol,
Oh,
and which, I mean, I was just, I couldn't believe somebody did that. Literally hung them from a tree until they died. And then there was another one, Kwame Cherry in New Britain, who had beaten a puppy, Puppy Hope, thrown her against the wall, and he was a bad character, you
yeah.
know. I believe he's still in jail for other things. He ultimately went to jail for that, and I called Christine and I called my cousin. I said, we need to regroup. I said, this is out of control. And meanwhile, Desmond's Law was still going through legislation. And it was that year, 2000, it was late 2015, early 2016, that it was coming back up and it was looking good to pass.
Okay.
So I said, we have to regroup, you know. Um, and so they agreed, and we formed the Facebook group. I think it was Connecticut Goes to Court, Desmond's Army Goes to Court, something like that, initially, before we changed the name.
Right.
And so we started going to court on these cases as Desmond's Law is moving through the steps toward legislation, and the
Okay.
media picked up on it and picked up on the law, and that ball got rolling again.
Why the purple? I mean, people see, I'm sure, yeah, I mean, you're notorious for that. Desmond's
Right,
Army is
right.
is known for, the group with the purple shirts. You see him in court all the time. How did that get started?
Because Desmond's last leash of love, we call it his leash of love, that his shelter worker um, gave him was purple. It was this color purple. And so that's why the purple shirts.
Gotcha. So
It
that's
was the
got some,
last piece of love he had.
yeah, some history and some meaning to it. Um, and and as you sat in on these court cases, it must have been eye opening, especially in the early days, um, because you got to see the cold hard reality of the justice system and how it wasn't functioning as it should. What was that like for you?
It was frustrating, but even then our presence was being noticed, that somebody was speaking up for these animals. And although many weren't adjudicated the way we would have liked, um, things were starting to change, at that point. you
Well,
know
because now you have a presence in the courtroom. You guys are really like a watchdog agency in a lot of ways. I mean, speaking for the voiceless is the motto, right? So
yes,
it's at least giving these cases another layer of scrutiny. Just
right.
having that group in court to say we're watching what's going on.
We're not
Um,
only watching, but we're recording what's going on. We have a whole database on cases, the cases we follow. And it's data that's been analyzed now. So it's not just about, oh hey, we're going to court, and watching you. We're recording what's going on.
Right. And I think one of the things that I've come to appreciate about Desmond's Army so much is the persistence and the follow up that you guys have. Like it's not just about okay, let's go find this perp. And then once he's caught, that's the end of it. You follow him through the judicial process all the
Years.
way to the bitter end. Yeah,
Yeah.
even if it takes years, and you guys do not give up. I mean, it's incredible. Um, no, it is because I mean, I could say even from working in the news media for 20 years, we may spotlight a story, we may cover an arraignment in court, but we're not in there for every continuance, every time
Right.
the judge has a meaningless, 2 minute whatever. You guys are, and you follow it through to the bitter end. So that's one of the things that I think is really great about the work that you do.
Well, squeaky wheels, you know.
Yeah, somebody's got to
Squeaky
be a
wheels.
squeaky wheel,
And
right?
and there are judges that, they notice that they don't want us on their bad side. I mean, we're never disrespectful. Um, but they know we're watching them. And hopefully now they know that, the outcomes are being recorded as well.
Yes. And not only that, but now to your earlier point, now they have a law that they need to follow.
Correct.
Um, and so let's get back to that. Desmond's army was born. You guys are sitting in on these court cases, and then Desmond's law is still going through the legislative process. And you know, I mean, I started at Fox 61 as the political reporter. I know how hard it is to get legislation passed. You have to go through different committees. Then, even
Mhm.
if the bill makes it out of committee, there's only like a 5 or 10% chance that it actually gets a full vote on the floor. And then the governor's got to approve it. So it is not easy to get legislation, turned into law. But how did that all happen?
Um, how did it happen? Well, it is a process. And I did, you know, I was the last one to give testimony because, you have to give testimony. And I was the very last one to give testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I told my story of domestic violence and what happened to my dog, which is why I got involved with Desmond. The case of Desmond was my dog was shot in retaliation for me leaving. Um, so, I told that story and I told it from a third person point of view. Um, and then in the end, I said, you may or may not have guessed that young girl was me. And, um, we need a law that protects these animals because of the connection between animal cruelty and domestic violence,
Absolutely.
and that it's long past due. So, after that, I ran out of the. That was the first time I had ever done anything like that. It's incredibly intimidating, um, and I got out of the the room there in the Capitol, and my knees buckled. But I had legislators coming up to me asking me for copies of my testimony, and I heard there wasn't really a dry eye in the House, um, and that pushed it over that pushed it over the edge.
Incredible. Incredible. And Zilla, what does Desmond's law do?
Desmond's law puts a pro bono attorney um, in court to advocate for justice in animal cruelty cases. Um, it also allows for a law student under the supervision of their professor to advocate in animal cruelty cases to make
So
sure
you
that they're adjudicated fairly.
Okay, so where do you get the pro bono attorneys? Where do they come from? And then you must partner with schools, right?
We have not been able to partner with schools. That's a touchy subject.
Okay. See, we didn't script any of this.
No,
Maybe
no,
we can
but
leave that for another podcast. Okay.
yeah. We initially did work with UConn on this, but parted ways,
Okay.
and that's okay. There are attorneys. There's a list that Department of Agriculture holds. Any attorney that's interested in signing up should contact the Department of Agriculture. And there's a form that they fill out with their juris number and all that. And they're put on the list, and that's it. And
Perfect.
and you don't have to be a litigator. We have real estate attorneys. We have um, you know, all sorts of different types of attorneys doing it. All you have to do is have a passion.
Yeah. And what kind of, I mean, so for all intents and purposes, the animal is their client, right? And
Correct.
they're speaking for the animal. What kind of power do they have in court? Would it be just like a regular, a regular attorney? Can they advocate for certain sentences and you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Okay.
they can recommend certain sentencing. Sometimes it's followed, sometimes it's not. Sometimes, it's somewhere in the middle, but they help the prosecutors, because they do a lot of research on the case. A lot of things that prosecutors don't have time to do.
I see.
They'll go to the shelter if the animal is still alive and it's been confiscated by animal control. They'll go visit the animal, you know.
Yeah. And prior to Desmond's Law, what was going on? Just there would be an empty victim stand, just nobody would be there.
No, no, it's said that animals are considered property and disposable.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So, I would imagine that, and this was what year Desmond's Law was passed in what year?
Desmond's Law passed in 2016.
Okay. And you mentioned a little bit earlier how you would like to see it possibly strengthened or expanded. What are we talking about here, including more animals, right?
Yes, companion animals, I believe, is the language that we'll have success with. And a companion animal can be a horse, it can be a goat, um, you know, it can be a bunny. Um, but we've had equine cases that really required, and I would say equine cases are some of the most ignored cases. Horses are, beasts of burden, and they
Sure.
carry a burden because people abuse them, they starve them, they beat them, and they neglect them. And once it hits court, if they're caught, once it hits court, they're wiped out. Those people, I have not seen an equine case not receive AR.
Wow.
And you know, people these people, there's a few of them that are repeat offenders. They have no record, so AR
Right.
AR expunges your record.
Mm. Um, so we heard a little bit about Desmond's Army, how it got started as an organization. We heard about Desmond's Law, what it does, and how that was able to be passed. Let's talk a little bit about Desmond's Army, where it is right now. Um, what is the mission of Desmond's Army? Because you guys do a lot. I mean, it's not just going to court with purple shirts on. That's obviously what you're most well known for, but you do a lot. So, what is the mission all about?
Well, we educate on the connection between, social and domestic violence and animal cruelty. Um, and, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we pay for necropsies, um, where it will aid in a prosecution. And that helps municipalities out because they don't have to lay out money for that. We help with vetting in cases of animal cruelty. Um, a lot of people will see we put rewards up. We do
Right.
$5,000 rewards for information leading to the arrest and prosecution. Um, in an abandonment case, or that's all abandonment cases, and a lot of those cases, the animals are horribly neglected. Um,
And that's all
and
donated money. I mean, that's
it's all
donations
donations.
that
You
you
know,
get. And um, so what is, I mean, is there, as you've been doing this, Zilla, you must have seen so much. I don't know if this is even a question that you can answer, but is there one or two cases that, really just stick out in your mind as being so egregious that you can't even believe that they happened?
well, of course. I mean, there was the case of Heidi Looters. The five
Uh,
starved dogs, the Fairfield Five.
yeah.
Um, that is a case that is etched in so many people's souls. You know, those dogs were starved to death. Um, and she was in and out of the house. It, it, it's and again, this was another case where she got off scot free on that charge, and she was convicted of felony property damage was the charge that they were able to um, get her on, and you
Mm.
know that is one that will haunt a lot of us forever. The Veronica Reyes case, hanging the two dogs. Um,
I mean, just in the time that
I
I
mean,
was in
recently we've had the case of what
BlackRock.
was his name? BlackRock. BlackRock was big. Um, I wasn't. Um, it was big. It was bad. It was shocking. Um,
Yeah.
that one didn't seem to hit me like others did, though. You know,
Interesting.
um,
Okay.
the one, the cat cases. Those are hard. We had one in Waterbury, and it was also domestic violence. There were kittens in a child's room, and the guy went in and beheaded with his hands, literally ripped the heads off the kittens.
Oh my God.
And this was post Desmond's law. And there was an advocate on the case, and he got jail time for him.
Good.
Yeah. Whereas otherwise, he probably would have received a suspended sentence.
Yeah, some
So,
cases just really hit you. And I think especially when now there's video everywhere. There's video
right.
cameras everywhere. We're always being watched. So it adds a whole nother level to it when you have a case where you can see it visually.
Yeah.
We just posted a video today on our Desmond's Army Facebook page, in fact, out of Waterbury, where you can see a man going up to a puppy, presumably his puppy,
Yeah.
and punching the puppy in the face multiple
For
times.
no reason whatsoever. That puppy was laying on the ground. There was no reason for that.
Right, right. And then he comes out of a store in the downtown. He's got the puppy on the leash, and he's dragging the puppy, jerking the puppy's neck, and you can see the dog doesn't want to walk with him. So We're hoping that there can be some justice there, and we need people to share that video so people can see it and we can figure out who this guy is. But that's just one case of many,
Right.
right? I mean, this happens far too often.
Right. And you figure that's happening out in the open. What's he doing to that dog at home?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
that's the part that haunts me. Is that's right there in public. What's he doing to that puppy at home?
And does it say, because I genuinely don't know the answer to this question, but if you're convicted of animal abuse and I don't know, let's say you're convicted of it, I guess it doesn't matter if you get accelerated rehabilitation or you do some jail time, but are you able to own an animal after you're convicted of it?
Depends on how the judge rules.
Really?
Just this past year, there was a 5-year ban enacted from owning an animal, owning or possessing or living with an animal for 5 years if you're convicted of animal cruelty. The language isn't perfect. It really needs to be looked at and rewritten, but it's there, and they can use it.
It
So
just seems like common sense to me that that would be part of the law, right? I mean, if you're convicted of animal cruelty, you're not able to own a pet. That should just be a standard part of it. It's like if you commit a gun crime, you can't own a weapon
you
anymore if
can't own
you're
a
a
weapon, right?
convicted felon, right? Right. So, okay. So Desmond's law helped, but there's certainly still loopholes in the
Oh,
law.
there's so much that needs to change. I mean, and here's a rabbit hole to go down another time, is that animals should not be considered property, right? I mean, that is such an antiquated thought.
Oh, absolutely. I have
They're
a dog.
sentient beings, they're sentient
Yeah.
beings. I kind of shy away from, the people, not the people, but the term personhood. I shy away from that, but they are sentient beings, and that needs to be acknowledged. They are not property. They're family members.
I couldn't agree with that more.
Yeah.
I have a dog named Lola, and I'll put her up on the screen after so people can see her. But she's a mutt. No,
Yeah.
she's a mixed breed, but she's more empathetic than most of the adult humans that I know. I mean, she knows your mood. She knows how to make you feel better, and you consider her a part of your family, just
Yeah.
like anybody else.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah. So, um, So I guess where do we go from here, Zilla? I mean, are there any legislative efforts going, underway right now with Desmond's Army in terms of what you guys are trying to do?
Well, that season is just beginning to kick off. We haven't really gotten into it yet, but one of the things we really want to see is companion animals being included in Desmond's law.
Right.
So that's what we're on this year. That's our focus.
You think you'll have the support for that?
I hope so.
I
I
mean,
think I
if
think if
anything
it's
is going to,
important to enough people, if it's important to enough people and enough people get involved like they did with Desmond's law, we'll get it through.
absolutely. And, when I think of bipartisan pieces of legislation, I mean, there's nothing more bipartisan than animal rights, right? I mean,
Right.
it's not a political issue. It's not right
No.
or left. It's
No,
humanity
it's not
at
right or
the end of
left.
the
It's
day.
right or
Yeah,
wrong.
it's
Is
right or
what it is.
wrong.
It's right or
Perfect.
wrong.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. So we have a lot of things that we're planning within Desmond's Army. We're going to try and, do some extra promotion. We're going to be working on messaging and branding and all kinds of things to sort of get the message out there a little bit more. So you and I will be working together closely on that, Zilla. And I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm excited to be a part of the Desmond's Army family and, for you and I to collaborate together because I knew you obviously when I worked at Fox 61.
Yeah.
Um, but now I'm able to continue to tell stories in a different way. And it's exciting.
It is, and I'm excited to continue this conversation on these podcasts, and let people know what's going on out there, and maybe talk about some of our cases that are current, um, and you know, update on rewards, and hopefully get all animals included, at least companion animals included into Desmond's law. I'd like our horse community to step up for that.
Mm, absolutely, absolutely. Um, well, let's see. We're at about 35 minutes. It's amazing how the time flies. We could talk for hours. We really could, but we want to save some content for future podcast episodes. So,
Yeah.
what do you think? We're gonna try and do this on a semi-regular basis, right? I mean,
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
we'll figure out a schedule, and maybe we'll put more of a structure in place and a format to it. What I really think would be great is if we solicited some comments and chats and things from all of our Facebook followers.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, one thing I did
yeah,
forget, and I should not have forgotten,
sure.
is in our mission, one of the things we do, and since it is Domestic Violence Month again, um, we will pay for 1 month board for any victim of domestic violence going into a licensed safe house, and they need to get their pet out. We will pay for 1 month board. And what has to happen is the safe house has to call a boarding facility, and that boarding facility calls me, on which our number is on the website, and we will pay for that first month board to get your family member, your other family member out safe.
Yeah. Now that's a very important initiative. I'm glad you mentioned that. And you triggered another question in me, so I guess we'll just keep it going here for another minute or so. But you talked a little bit about the connection between animal abuse and domestic violence, and of course, October is a very important month, being Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Um, and that's a proven statistic, right? I mean, that's not just
Yes.
we think, but that's a link that's supported by data.
The data is um, 89% of people in domestic violence situations who have pets, their pets are also abused.
Wow. That's just shocking. And so it's just another reason to support stricter penalties for these people, because if you
Yes,
if you take them out of society at the moment that they're known to be violent towards an animal, then you quite literally could prevent a potential murder or homicide down the line.
exactly. Exactly. It is not rocket science, you know.
No, I mean, my mind is blowing
It,
up as I'm talking about this
yeah,
with you, because it just seems so common sense.
right. And there's so many that don't know. They don't, in law enforcement, in the judicial system, you know, um, I know it's being shouted out there, and for some reason it's not being absorbed by these people. I don't get it, because it is simply common sense.
Yeah. And do you think that there's a link as well between animal abuse and mental health? Is that is that a natural link? I mean, I specifically, I guess I think of hoarding cases when I think of things like that, you know?
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
Is it a rabbit hole?
That's a
Okay.
rabbit hole. Um, yeah, there is um, quite a bit of mental health issues out there, especially surrounding hoarding. I mean, hoarding of animals is just another aspect of hoarding of stuff, right? However, it would seem, and I'm not in the psychiatry or
Right.
psychologist
Right.
field, but it's a lot of these people seem to have like God complexes that they can fix everything, that these animals are not better off with anyone but them. Um, that's what it appears, from all the hoarding cases we see. Um, I think that's sort of a common thread.
Sure. And would you say that hoarding is animal abuse, just in a different form?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to care for that many animals properly. They go without food, they go without water, they're usually loaded with fleas, they're not medically treated. Yeah, I mean, there's serious neglect that happens there. So yes.
Sure. Sure. Okay. Okay, we've covered a lot. We've gone on a few tangents. Zilla,
Okay,
I could talk to you for hours. This has been, I'm so glad we did this, our
I am too.
inaugural Desmond's Army podcast. And like I said, we'll keep doing it and perfect it and just keep this conversation going. I already have more questions that I want to ask you, but we'll save them for another
Next time.
episode next time. So thank you so much to our Desmond's Army community on social media for watching this video. We invite you to like, follow us, comment, share, subscribe. We always love to hear from you and become an active member, right, Zilla? It's easy to do
Please
that.
sign up, go to our website, www.desmondsarmy.org. Fill out the membership form, join our support page. Um, come to court, call me.
I got to get myself one of those shirts. You got to send me one.
Yes, yes. I'll get Linda
Okay.
to send you one.
All right. Get Linda to send me one. All right.
Okay.
Zilla, thank you so much. And we'll see everybody next time. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Matt. I'm excited about this.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, take care.